All set. Without further ado, Amanda Doblin.
Great. Thank you so much, Melanie. It's such a pleasure to be invited back. And I saw a lot of familiar names on the list attending. So that's exciting too, to help remind everybody of what they've learned and teach you some more things. And this is along the same lines of what we talked about last time with LinkedIn, and more specifically as we are trying to reinvent ourselves and pivot our careers. So thank you again to Melanie and to the right group, and we're going to get started. So the goals for this evening are, I want you to understand LinkedIn's potential, why we leverage LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn for career transitions, decoding the algorithm, and then some tips about building a profile and consistency and authenticity in LinkedIn. And this is very casual. If you have questions, please chime into the chat. Melanie will pause me and I can answer your questions. And then of course, you are welcome to email me afterwards and ask me questions. I am very happy to help. So before we get started, I just want to take a little poll of how you use LinkedIn, and then what are your primary reasons for LinkedIn? So just to get some feedback about how you're using it right now, how you hope to use it, and making sure that I can address your goals. I love watching the numbers go up during the poll.
I do too. It's great.
Yeah. I feel like there should be like a soundtrack going on with it. And Melanie, I'll leave it up to you when you wanna
Sure. Yep,
stop the poll.
absolutely. We'll give everybody how about 5 more seconds to go ahead and respond, and then we can take a peek at how everybody's feeling. Okay, this is it, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll.
Right?
Can you see those, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. So almost everybody answered. It seems like most of you, well, multiple times a day to 2 to 3 times a week. And I think that's great. Consistency is super important. Networking is really the most important. So kudos to everybody who's doing that correctly. And then that's great information, and that's super helpful. I would also love to know, and Melanie, if you can see when if people can chime in on their screens, is how many of you are in the middle of a career transition right now, whether you're transitioning careers, you're transitioning from home to going back to work full time, or maybe you've been working full time and you want to transition to a freelance position as well. So Melanie, if you can give me a show, like just a general amount of how many people are transitioning currently.
Sure. If everybody wants to either show of hands or want to just sort of chime in the chat, that would be fantastic. Okay,
Naomi, you're in the middle of a transition. Sarah is starting her own company. Anna, you're trying to work through some changes. Excellent. Anyone else want to chime in of what their transition? Bruce, full-time to freelance. These are great. These are excellent. And I'll try to address various ways that we try to rebrand ourselves as we transition. Back from education. Excellent. Anyone else want to chime in as we get going? Great. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for participating. Okay, so let's start. So what I always like to start with is, why are people even on LinkedIn? It is important to identify the user base, how many people are using it every day, so that you recognize who that audience is. So this is over a year old. No, I'm sorry, a couple months old, but you can see the change from March 2023 to April 2024 and how many members are on it. United States has the most, and it's followed by India and China for obvious reasons. With 134.5 million users, this is from April. I imagine this number is higher. They have not produced another report in the last couple of months. And more than 50% are active monthly. That's a huge audience. So it's a lot of people to reach. That's why we use LinkedIn if you're in the professional world. 40% are engaging with a page weekly, meaning those who are logged on are connecting with other people, whether they're liking a post, they're commenting on a post, how many pages they're looking at, meaning how many profiles people are looking at. And it's the top business to business platform. So it looked like there are a handful of you who are interested in freelancing. That's great. Who's your target audience? And we're going to talk a lot tonight about who your target audience is and what you need that person to know right away. And according to Hootsuite in April, that 40% of marketing say that LinkedIn is the most effective channel for getting high quality leads. And most business to business marketers are using it for lead generation. So for those of you who are looking for freelance, that's really important, and that your goal is to drive leads. So let's talk about why people are using LinkedIn or how they use LinkedIn. I've figured out in doing this for several years now, what are the pockets that people are using LinkedIn for. I'm sure there's a couple other nuanced ones, but what I've noticed primarily are professional branding and thought leadership, which I've kind of lumped into one, networking, looking for a job, and then the others, client acquisition. This will be important if you're a freelancer, candidate acquisition, if you're in a hiring situation, anyone who's in HR, business to business marketing, what we just talked about, and maybe you're trying to upskill. I have in bolded today because we're primarily going to focus on professional branding and thought leadership, networking, and job search during a career transition. And because I saw a lot of people identifying client acquisition, meaning that you're in the freelance and you're trying to rebrand yourself accordingly from a full-time role to now, during your full-time role, you're probably putting your professional brand out there and networking, and now you're using that network to attract clients. And how does that transition? And that's what we're going to focus on today. So what I have noticed is that it is a very common misconception that job searching is backward looking, when in reality, it's aspirational and forward looking. What I want everybody to think about, whether you're coming in from an educational break, whether you're really trying to figure out which path you want to take next, whether you're transitioning from a full-time role, starting your own business as a freelancer, it's more important to identify and brand yourself about what you want to do next. So what's your aspiration? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to work? What do you want in your new career? And these are really important pillars as you're leveraging LinkedIn. You want to build your profile and your strategy for leveraging LinkedIn based on your target role in your target industry. I think this is the most important slide. This lovely woman is really contemplating who she wants to be next. So again, I'm going to say that again. What is your aspiration? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to work? And what do you want in that new career? And for clients who've worked with me before, and I saw several of your names, so thank you for coming back. I talk a lot about aligning yourself with the culture of the next company or your next job, with the compensation, with the commute. I think a lot of people who are logged on tonight think you are from the Chicago area. It can be very challenging. And then we always have to compromise or something. So life is about compromise. So what are you willing to compromise on? A lot of people may be willing to compromise on that compensation piece. because they want the flexibility to work from home. They want to be aligned with that mission and the value of the company. And some people may compromise on the commute because it's that dream job with that compensation that you need to get to reach your financial goals. Whatever it is, that's great. But there are great windows to look in. And as you're rebranding yourself, as you're adjusting your professional identity, these are all great things to think about. I'm going to pause there in case anybody has any questions or comments. Melanie, you can, if you see anybody.
Yeah, nothing in the chat at the moment, but if anybody's got any questions, yes,
Okay,
please feel free to chime in, and I can always flag Amanda to take a pause.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so with that, let's talk about the LinkedIn algorithm. It's important to recognize how LinkedIn is working as you are considering rebranding yourself and pivoting your career. The goal with LinkedIn is to manipulate the algorithm to drive more views to your profile. So the more you use LinkedIn with intention and with consistency and aligned to that aspiration, the better LinkedIn is going to work for you. And so it's important to recognize how the algorithm works in order to get there. So these are several pieces of the algorithm. There are many more, and LinkedIn changes them all the time. I think I mentioned this example the last time, and I've probably mentioned it to several clients of mine, that I have logged into clients' LinkedIn profiles in the morning and then come back to finish some work on it in the afternoon, and the profile looked completely different. So there are things that change constantly. I did join a LinkedIn professional group that allows you to evaluate the changes. So that's really exciting to see some of the changes that they're contemplating and they're testing and being on the front lines of those changes. So pieces that fit into that, the premium membership. No, you do not need it, but it definitely helps drive people to your page. I always suggest to people to get the free profile of, or I'm sorry, the free premium membership, and then put it in your calendar when to cancel it after a month, and just see if you're getting additional movement. It is expensive, and there are ways to manipulate, just like this, to manipulate the algorithm without paying for it. But of course, the paid version is going to attract more views to your profile, and you have no idea if who that profile will connect you to, who's looking, who would connect you with. I will say, while I'm thinking about it, is no one's going to look at your LinkedIn and say, aha, you're hired. Your goal is to differentiate your profile from any competition. Other pieces in the algorithm are the premium membership, the completed profile, making sure all those pieces are connected. Once you hit 500 connections, consistent engagement and interaction, and we'll come back to that a lot. Keywords, making sure that the words that are on your page connect to your target, just that aspirational target that we talked about. Keywords are very important in the first 3 lines of your about section and in your headline, which is right under your picture. You can now, they just expanded the skills and endorsements to 100. So making sure you have at least 50, and the first 3 to 10 are the ones that fit into your algorithm the most. Once you get to 10 recommendations, it increases it. You can use your keywords with hashtags, which is what that should say, and also dwell time. And we'll talk about that. That's when you're looking through the news feed on LinkedIn, and what you stop on, it recognizes that you like that, and it will feed you more of that content. Also, keywords when you're looking for a job, when you go to the job search section, it's recognizing what you're typing in. Hey, so let's talk. You've heard me say the word engagement a lot. Engagement on LinkedIn is simply when you are on the home screen, and it's when you react, you comment, you like, you share, you click see more. All of that clicking is working with your algorithm, and it's curating content accordingly. In a minute, I will log on to LinkedIn and you can see. Commenting is the most effective way to to gain traction on your profile. And when you think about your engagement strategy, when you are logged in and you're scrolling through that home screen, you always want to be very intentional. So looking back at this screen, who you want to be, where you want to work, and what you want your next career to be is all connected to this engagement strategy. Everything should be aligned. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. For example, here's my LinkedIn. I have premium right now. I haven't had it for 3 years, and I thought it was time to re-up it and learn everything that they've changed with it. So you can see right away when you log on, when you're looking at someone's page, if they have the LinkedIn premium badge right here. And I can tell you the difference here. I didn't have premium here, and you can see the more active I am, the more I engage with intention, the higher it goes. I just upped my LinkedIn last week, and you can see how much more traction I've gotten. So when I talk about consistency, I'm talking about this news feed. So when you're engaging, so I can use myself for an example. My brand on LinkedIn is resume and LinkedIn writer, positioning clients for success through authentic representation. My goal on LinkedIn is to connect with like-minded individuals. I connect with LinkedIn experts. This guy, Andy Foote, is one of them. I connect with other people. I'm connected with my competition. I'm connected to resume experts, LinkedIn experts, job search networks, everybody who I'm connected with, and what I want to show up on here, that's whose pages I'm looking at. Every time I click on LinkedIn, it's reading what I like. So it knows I like Andy, and it will feed me Andy's content. Because, and I love Adam Grant, and I love influencers like Adam Grant and Brene Brown and similar. But the engagement that I'm talking about all stems from this newsfeed. If I'm reinventing myself, I would want to change all sorts of things to repivot. The goal is to always brand yourself consistently, aspirationally, and whatever you're interacting with on LinkedIn needs to align with that. I will say that mine is not curated that well. If you've worked with me, we've probably done this live as well, and I've logged in as creative directors, biochemical engineers, chief marketing officer, chief HR officers, and the like. So mine isn't curated that well. So the more consistent and the more intentional you are with this newsfeed, the better LinkedIn is going to work for you.
Amanda, can I ask one quick question?
Please.
When you mention being connected with folks, does that mean that those individuals are in your actual network, or that you are actually following those individuals?
It can be both. It's very nuanced, following versus connected. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of how it separates, but it really is the more, and I'll show you the numbers that are different.
Thank you.
So, okay, so I have 2,200 followers. That means, in essence, that they can see my posts, and I have 500 connections. That means I can see theirs and they can see mine. If there are certain people you want to connect with, for your next role, let's say you want to use, my goal is to work at Google. I would look at I would be able to see my connections, and I could identify who works at Google. Oops, well. And you can search by current company. You can see that this is all sorts of people who work at Google. If I want to curate my feed and I want more people from Google to look at that, because that's my target company, I want to make sure that I'm connected to them and I could reach out to Doug. I could message Doug right here. We have a lot of people in common, so you can see, you can kind of weigh your connection, the weighting it of how you know people there. And your goal would be to network and have more people at Google, if that's my goal, one of my goals. Does that answer your question? I hope.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions while we're here?
Nothing in the chat right now, but if anybody has any other questions for Amanda, just throw them in the chat and we can, she and I can both see them and address them as they come up. All right. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so engagement strategy. So as when you're looking at your home screen and the news feed, you could provide additional insight if you like a particular post, summarize the takeaways, be curious, ask questions, share your emotions, those little indicators at the bottom, tag your network, adding hashtags. Those are great ways to target your newsfeed and curate it. Other ways to focus on your targets. Again, I want you to always think about, what is my goal? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be professionally? Update your profile accordingly. Find your target companies and then find the people who work there. Similar, those are very similar. Direct message those. So if you haven't talked to somebody in a long time and you used to work at Allstate, message them, ask how they've been, ask them for 15 minutes of your time, of their time. Follow the influencers, similar how I was saying, I love Adam Grant. Finding like-minded people who also like Adam Grant, that's a right brain connection. Talk about your favorite podcast of your favorite quotes, if you're a giver or you're a taker, all those different things about those influencers. I was talking about dwell time. The more time you spend on a post, it's measuring the efficacy of those posts, and it will feed you similar. When you add hashtags based on your target, if you are interested in being a leadership coach and you are abiding by a very specific practice of a leadership coach, of somewhere where you graduated from, you might want to add those hashtags, connect with those like-minded people. So it's reading your content consumption patterns. So it's recognizing what types of people you're looking at, who you're looking at, and what you're liking. And it will ask if you like Google, maybe you want to work at Meta or similarly. So it's feeding that information to you. Add your comments. Reciprocal engagement is huge. If someone comments on your post, comment back to them. Also add target job titles. Again, this is all based on where you want to be. It's all aspirational. And I saw a bunch of questions pop up. So I'm happy to
Yeah,
pause if they,
that would be
okay.
perfect. So a couple of
Okay.
questions that we've got. Thanks so much. Sarah asked a question. I don't understand hashtags, the purpose and the use. Can you please elaborate?
Yes, Sarah, I would love to. Okay, let me get out of here. Okay, so there are rumors that hashtags are leaving, but for now they're here. And so we'll use them. So what you're trying to do with hashtags, if you type a hashtag in, I'm using freelance writer because, and you can see, what did I find? Someone's looking for a freelance writer. You have no idea what you would find for that. So you can find posts that are relevant. And because I type this in and I'm scrolling on it, I'm stopping on it, it will feed me additional. So it's a way to curate the feed and increase the likelihood that it will show up in your newsfeed. I'm going to repeat that one more time because it doesn't guarantee. This is an algorithm. There's no guarantee. If I follow, the next step is to click on the hashtag and then follow the hashtag. There's more than 49,000 followers. It will increase the likelihood that it's showing up in my newsfeed, but it doesn't guarantee it. So your goal with hashtags is finding content that's relevant to you. It's also to improve and target this newsfeed based on your new pivot, your aspirational role. Hopefully that answers your question, Sarah.
And then Zendaya asked a follow-up question, which Amanda, you actually, I think, already responded to. She said, I recently read a post on LinkedIn that they might be moving away from hashtags. Should we, and they may stop using them, but what would LinkedIn be without hashtags? And what would they be replaced with? Which I think is a very valid and legit question.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of study, like a lot of posts on that. This person who I follow, he had recently did a poll on if they're going to keep them or not. And there's like I can show you in here. There's like a whole community that talks about all the new things that are, I think that you can see there's like 45 people in this that are talking about all the new things that are coming out, the things that are being taken away and why. And I don't know what it would be replaced with. Some say nothing. There's all, speaking of things being taken away, which is interesting to me that they expanded it to 100 as these skills and endorsements. This is what I was talking about. There's rumors this is going to be taken away. There's rumors they're going to end the endorsements on it, and so on. So I haven't seen it happen yet, but that has been talked about for at least 2 or 3 years. The hashtag thing I just saw in the last several months.
Got it. That's great. One other question that came from Amy. She
Mhm.
asked, how much time would you recommend I dedicate per day to curating my feed?
Oh, I love that question. Um, I'm going to throw my husband under the bus. He can hear me talking right now. So he loves to sit and scroll LinkedIn. Don't do that. Don't, because it will mess up your algorithm. It will look like my newsfeed, which is again spanning from aerospace engineers to a preschool teacher, and everything in between. You want to spend about 20 minutes a day on LinkedIn. That's really all you need. You can, whether it's while you're having your cup of coffee in the morning, studies show that it's busiest in the morning, at lunchtime, and on the commute home for people who riding trains. Hopefully people aren't driving and doing that. But the most active are those particular times. And 20 minutes a day is really all you need. It doesn't happen overnight. It definitely is important to be, and you can see these words constantly, consistency and with intention. Intentional use will be way better than just scrolling to scroll. Maybe my husband will take this advice this time, but he loves to just scroll. He's not on Facebook, so maybe that's why.
That's great. That's awesome. And I think that's it right now. If anybody has any more questions, please feel free to use the chat. That was super effective.
Yeah, so again, I'm just going to reiterate the consistency and intention and consistency. If you choose to post, I recently have been posting. If you choose to post 1 to 3 times is plenty. Do and make sure it's like on a consistent topic. So again, and that it's aligned with your aspiration. If you are, whatever, you could do it with your passion projects. If you volunteer for for a nonprofit, you can do, which is aligned to your brand, but it also professional alignment. So whatever your brand is, chief human resources officer, and you want to transition to organizational development, it's not a huge shift, but you definitely want to brand yourself accordingly. And I want to go back. Sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. If you choose to post 1 to 3 times a week is more than enough. Don't cannibalize yourself. Never post more than 24 hours, more than once every 24 hours, and be realistic with what you can do. 1 post a week will drive a ton of traffic. I'm going to come back to that other rebranding piece. Using 3 to 5 hashtags. You can tag accounts. If, for example, I was posting this week about Melanie and the next group inviting me. So I tagged them in my post. What happens is it clings on to next group and all of their followers and connections. And if I tagged Melanie, it could increase the likelihood of showing up in Melanie's news feed. If I tagged Melanie and her colleagues, it would increase the likelihood of showing. So you can see the exponential growth. And when you're consistent and when you're intentional, it amplifies your brand. So if you are interested in pivoting your brand, you can see why this is so important. If you've been known as a full-time employee, as an instructional designer, and now you're going off as a freelancer, you need to adjust your brand and you need to recurate your newsfeed. Who would be your potential clients? What would those hashtags be? And so on. You can use emojis. There, and it says, I don't know why LinkedIn likes up to 10. That's a very random number. But if you like emojis and you like to dot it with color, go for it. If that's not your brand and you are a CPA at KPMG, maybe don't use emojis. Make sure that it's aligned with your brand, and aligned always, who is your target audience? Who are your target decision makers? Long form posts perform the best. People ask me a lot about articles. Right now, they're not performing right now. That doesn't mean in 6 months that could change. Always respond to comments within 12 hours, and don't edit your post within 10 minutes of posting. I don't know why that is. Apparently it reduces its reach and it thinks you made a mistake and it won't promote it. LinkedIn can suppress posts, and for some reason it loves to suppress. I haven't experienced that. I've just read a lot of research, and this is someone curating their garden very gingerly. So a little bit at a time is great, rather than, trimming the entire plant. That was my analogy there. Your profile views will surge the more you engage with intention and consistency. It is not necessary to post, I can tell you that. Just, this is one way to curate your newsfeed and one way to grow engagement. All right. Okay, so,
Do a quick
sorry.
pause. Ray threw in one quick question there. Sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off. She says, I've seen an increase of short form video posts. Do you have any recommendations regarding adding video posts instead of a text-based post?
Recommendations, I do not. I think posts with pictures perform a lot better. If you just did, there's like a level, like people have identified this person, Richard Vanderboom, which conducts all sorts of studies. He has a huge team. He puts out like 150-page report every year with tons of data that he's analyzed, and they have assigned a point value. So if you like a post, if I post it and somebody likes it, I will get 1 point. If somebody comments on it and it's more than three lines and you get to see more, I'll get 3 points, and so on. Video posts are popular because of dwell time, and the longer you get people to look at it, LinkedIn's reading it as quality information, and it's reading the quality versus the quantity. That seems kind of arbitrary to me, but that's what the studies say. And that's why the video posts tend to do well. Short form video is the best. And if you're posting a picture, I always recommend doing a picture, because people will pause and look at your picture. I hope that answers your question. I don't have more suggestions than that about video.
That's great, Amanda. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about profile optimization. If you've worked with me, you know that I talk you through top to bottom on your profile, and then I talk you through left to right. So if you're looking at a profile, you want to make sure, and I can walk you through mine up at the top. So you want to make sure everything is aligned with your target. So if you're pivoting, again, you're not looking backward, you're looking forward. You're reinventing yourself. Who are you next? Up from the top to the banner, a professional photograph. I like to use a middle initial. This is a little trick. So if you get a bot in your messaging. And I will tell you, when you update your profile, it triggers something to recruiters and you'll get reached out for all sorts of jobs. It is very clear when there's a bot because it will put my name as Amanda R. Doblin. And I like to do that because I can immediately say, oh, I don't need to read that. I don't need to read that. When it's somebody who actually knows me, it is, hi, Amanda. Just a little trick there. Again, making sure your headline, if you are a freelancer, you want, you want to make sure you brand yourself accordingly. Whether you create a logo through Fiverr or you go on Canva, making sure it's professional. Make sure if you went to college, make sure that you have the logo up here for the university that you went to. Again, making it aligned. You're connecting to alums is huge. If you went to multiple institutions, you got a master's, you got a PhD, you got an MBA, multiple undergraduate degrees, that's amazing. I would love to meet you if you have that much education. That sounds amazing to me. Pick one. You can only pick one. Pick the one that you are aligned with most. I have this on right now, open to work, because it will feed, it expires, I think, every 2 to 3 months. You have to re-up it. But again, that's helping with the keywords on there, and it is feeding me more content with that. As you continue down, make sure you have keywords in the first part. This see more is part of the engagement. Some of you were saying that you were freelancers. You can create a freelance marketplace right on LinkedIn. And anything that you feature on here, make sure that it's aligned with your target. And so on all the way down. If possible, you want to try to connect. My old employer does not have a LinkedIn page, last I checked, but if possible, always check and see if there's pages. And then you want to make sure everything is filled out and aligned to your target. Volunteer work, everything. If you can, I mean, if you have passion projects, that's fantastic. If they connect to your next target, that's better too. And also, when you put your volunteer organizations, it connects you to all the people who are involved. Again, your goal is to amplify your brand to decision makers who need your services or decision makers who may be hiring you.
Amanda, Gabrielle's got one question about keywords, if I can ask really quickly.
Absolutely.
The question is, how do you know what keywords will be most relevant and drive engagement?
Well, you want to think about what your target is. Are you talking hashtags or keywords? Because those can kind of be two different. Whoops, didn't mean to do that.
Hi, Amanda. It's Gabrielle.
Hi, Gabrielle.
Hi. I was thinking about in that about section in particular, but probably throughout your profile.
Yeah.
How you know, and obviously there aren't any specific keywords, but how you know what keywords will be or are most effective in driving that engagement and eyeballs. How do you do that research? How do you know?
Some of it's true. So I would suggest, if you can, like identifying people who have similar roles. And because job titles vary so much, you could be a benefits specialist, you could be an HR generalist, and you could hypothetically be doing the same thing. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. If you're in HR, you probably know better, but that's the best example I could come up with. I was just working with someone in HR. So you would think about all the different job titles that would apply to that role. So like a salesperson, that you could be inside sales representative, you could be a retention specialist, you could be whatever those titles are. And a great thing to use is ChatGPT, and just ask a bunch of questions like that and then curate what you think is best. I will say that keywords are way less of a driver right now than engagement and everything else that I showed you. Keywords is minimized, and you could see people who have had their profiles up for 10 years, 15 years and never touched it. They will have a huge long list in their about section of I specialize in, and they'll have a huge list of
Hmm.
things. That's not as important anymore. I won't say it's not as important, but it's just weighted differently now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, very.
Thanks so much, Gabrielle. And then Bruce asked one quick question.
Yeah.
Bruce says, once you have a logo for your new company, how do you
Yes.
upload it to the experience section?
Oh, so there's a little trick right here. And you go, oh, I'm sorry, where it says for business, and you click. Well, you can see there's so many things you can do on LinkedIn. You can go, it's hidden at the bottom, and you create a company page and follow the prompts. Other questions?
That's it at the moment. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, I think I got to the end of what to do when pivoting. The lesson here tonight, again, is really making sure your profile matches your target, and then using LinkedIn with consistency and intentionality so that you get to your end goal. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer more questions. And then if you would like to learn more, I did put my pricing up here, and you can send me an email and I can send you additional information. And like I said, I'm really happy to continue to answer questions in the next 10 or so minutes.
That's wonderful. Amanda, thanks so much. And starting to get a couple more questions. Anna threw out a question, really focused on the pivoting piece. How do you suggest framing emails to others when networking into your next career?
Oh, I think short and simple is, I'm just wanted to go to this one. Oops, sorry, probably making people really dizzy. Short and simple. People don't read long lists of information. So asking somebody at a target company who you know, like a cold outreach doesn't do as well, but a warm outreach, if Anna, I know somebody who works at one of your target companies and you see that on LinkedIn, you could ask, say, hey, Amanda, I see you know John Doe. Could you introduce us? Most of the time, people are going to do that. And then a real brief email of, if I introduce you and say, thank you so much, John, do you have 15 minutes to talk? And really listening, if that's somewhere you would go next. You're really listening a lot more than you're talking, which is ironic since I've been talking for 45 minutes straight here.
Amy's
Other
asking a question.
questions?
Yep. She said, for those of us who are overwhelmed by all things social media, what
Oh
should I
gosh, yeah.
prioritize when beginning this LinkedIn initiative?
I would identify your target. Again, like just looking at this aspiration. Like once you really identify what's important to you, what you want to prioritize, then build your LinkedIn around that. That's a very simplistic way to answer your question, but I really think, and it's really hard, like what do I want to be when I grow up? What's important to me? What type of company do I want to work for? I want to be aligned with the culture and the values. And I really want to listen if people like working there. It's very interesting where I am. I'll start to get a lot of clients from the same company. And that's like a clue to me, like, wow, that boss must not be really good. They must have changed their corporate culture. They must be doing some restructuring. Really, you can tell a lot by looking at people's profiles if they have been jumping jobs every 2 to 3 years. And if all of a sudden you have a target company in mind and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, why are all these people leaving? Or why were they only there for 6 months? So really identifying your aspiration, looking through those lenses that I like to advise is the culture, the compensation, the commute, and really thinking, where am I going to compromise? I hope that answers your question.
Yep, gotta thank you.
Hmm?
Wonderful. Any other questions that folks have? This, Amanda, this is great. Thank you so very much. And I want to thank everybody too for jumping in and being so so engaged throughout the presentation. I know that everybody comes at this at a different juncture, right? And
Mm-hmm.
has a different set of experiences with LinkedIn. So this was really a really worthwhile time this evening, Amanda. Much appreciated.
Yeah, and thank you. I know I ended a little bit early, but I think hopefully I validated a lot of what you know. I brought up some new information that makes you think and really help you get on your way towards pivoting, um, of where you want to be and what you want to do in your career. And once you identify that, what I've also noticed, this is a question I get a lot that I want to bring up, is that, oh, but I've done all these different things in my career. Um, for example, I've been a teacher, I've been an instructional designer, I'm now a freelance writer, and I've been in professional development training, all sorts of different things. And now now I focus on resume and LinkedIn. I don't need to tell everybody that whole story. The goal is to be a specialist and to brand yourself as one thing. And I know at this juncture, many of you may be like, well, I could go on path A, path B, path C. I'm just going to put it all up there. Well, then people are like, well, how do I know that person really knows what he or she is talking about? How could you be good at everything? There are people who are really good at everything, but there are also people, uh, when decision makers are hiring, a lot of times they want that specialist. So why not brand yourself as the specialist, differentiate yourself from the competition, and what is your differentiator, and present yourself like that. It doesn't mean when you get to the interview, because your goal is always to get to the interview, or your goal is always to get those client acquisitions. Then you can expand and say, oh yeah, I have experience strategic planning. Oh yeah, I have experience writing newsletters. I have experience facilitating large groups of people. Whatever it is that they're looking for, you can fill those pain points during that interview. But you don't have to be everything to everybody, is what I've noticed a lot of what people ask me about LinkedIn of, oh, should I have two profiles? You can't. Number one, it's against LinkedIn's terms of use. People do accidentally, but LinkedIn doesn't want you to do that, and it can suppress your profile if you have two of them, which is not what you want. But be one thing. And then it doesn't mean in a month or 2 months you can say, oh gosh, I really don't want to, I don't want to go into finance. Now I want to go into med tech, and I want to work for a pharmaceutical company. That's awesome. Great. Just rebrand yourself, recurate, redo your profile accordingly.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Lots of thank yous. Amanda, thank you so much. Here's a question. Michael threw a question out. I went to a week-long industry conference and learned a lot. Is there a suggested way to list this knowledge on my LinkedIn page?
Well, one thing you could do, if I'm going to differentiate between your profile and the newsfeed, you could make a post. You could tag people that you met and say, thank you so much. I enjoyed attending ABC conference. I gained so much value from so-and-so's presentation. I'm looking forward to applying it in my job, or something to that effect. Obviously, fill in all those blanks accordingly. Tagging people, you're going to make sure you're connected to them first. Tagging them, you're going to increase the likelihood that your post shows up in their newsfeed and other people see it. When they see that post, they'll see your picture and they'll see your headline. Making sure that that headline is aligned to your target, your aspirational target, is one way you can do it. Another way you could do it, if you're, one of the settings here is you could, you could make that post and then you could feature it. And then it's right up there, everything that you've learned. If you're thinking about, and then it will stay on here because you can see your activity. And then if you're a part of an organization, like down at the bottom right here, you could say, you could add that organization and then you could edit this accordingly. Clicking this button, and you could say, recently attended the 2024 conference. Couple ways to do that.
Yeah.
There's
great
a lot
suggestion.
of, yeah, there's a lot of ways to do the same things.
That's
That
wonderful.
would be one suggestion. Yeah.
Well, maybe as a gift to everyone else, we will give everybody else 5 minutes back in their evening tonight. Amanda,
Yes,
I just wanted to say
you.
thank you again for coming back and for sharing all this wonderful knowledge. Thank you to everybody who jumped in, who asked questions, who were engaged. We will share out a recording of this workshop. As soon as we get this saved, I will push out a link tomorrow. And if there's anybody else that that is interested in this, please feel free to share it with them. I'm going to do one last plug if I can really quickly. On our events page, we have all our events that are happening between now and the end of the calendar year. The one event that I do want to highlight really quickly, and it kind of ties in really nicely with LinkedIn, is networking. We are going to have an in-person networking event. It's wonderful, I think, to be able to do these kinds of opportunities and be able to have tools like LinkedIn. But I think nothing takes the place of actually meeting people, engaging with people face to face. So if you are in the
Absolutely.
area and are interested and available on Thursday, November 14th, we would love to have you guys join us for this free in-person networking event. It'll be in Deerfield at Venture X. I will add a link to the information in the chat one last time. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Amanda, thank you again for everything. And hope everybody has a good rest of your week. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
Wonderful.
I enjoyed talking to everybody.